The aptly named book of Lamentations portrays the broken heart of its author, traditionally assumed to be the prophet Jeremiah. After the fall of Jerusalem to the Babylonians, this national tragedy was an unprecedented act of God's judgment for the people's unfaithfulness. Almost inconceivably, God had allowed the very center of worship for his people to be ransacked and demolished by a pagan nation. Jeremiah's lament derived from his personal sorrow at the fate of those whom he dearly loved. Even more, he agonized over the people's unwillingness to turn away from their sin when confronted by the prophet's clear and consistent warnings. This short book is composed of 5 poems, specifically laments. Chapters 1 and 5 summarize the siege and fall of Jerusalem at the hands of the Babylonians. The great city of Jerusalem was defeated, and with that, the hopes of God's people faltered. Jeremiah begged God to remember his people and turn back to them in love once more. Chapters 2 and 4 focus on the destruction and devastation that resulted from God's judgment. The consequences of sin ravaged all segments of society, leaving no one untouched. The 3rd chapter functions as the climax and focal point of Jeremiah's writing. Jeremiah proclaimed the greatness of God's faithfulness in the face of his judgment. 3:23. Though Judea was in shambles, God had not abandoned his people forever. His intention was to use Jerusalem's destruction to remind his people, of the heinousness of their sin and draw them back to himself through his relentless grace. The circumstances of God's people may have obscured their view of God's faithfulness, but Jeremiah reminded the people that their sin had not irrevocably destroyed God's promises, and that God would certainly remain faithful. While the nation's rebellion was great, God's faithfulness was greater. His compassions never fail. These never-ending mercies are seen most clearly in the life, death, and resurrection of who else? Jesus Christ, who came to earth as the perfect embodiment of God's faithfulness. All those who have been defeated and destroyed by sin need to look no further than Jesus to see God's great faithfulness on display. They can turn to Christ and find the hope that all people so desperately need. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. Lamentations 3:22.